With memorizing music, there's basically three different types of memory that come into play. There might be others. These are the three that I rely on and that I'm aware of. If you know of others, I'd love to hear from you. The three types of memory that I'm aware of and that I'll talk about today is the aural memory, or playing by ear and recognizing the tune by ear. The other is kinesthetic memory, or your muscle memory. How well do your fingers know where they're going? And the third type is intellectual memory. And a lot of us have one of those types of memory that is very dominant and that we rely on. What a lot of us don't realize is that we need to develop and utilize and prepare the other two types of memory so that they can overlap and they can compensate when one type might fail due to nerves or whatever. Then the other kind of memory can kick in because you've prepared all three. All right, so I'm going to give you some tips on developing each type of memory. And I want to encourage you to pay attention and analyze yourself and decide which type of memory is your dominant type, which type do you default to, which type are you using when you're memorizing a tune. You may have that type of memory already well developed, but you also might get some tips from this video on how to even improve your dominant form of memory. So let's talk about the aural memory first. Basically, this is how well you can remember it in your head. And this is a simple exercise and an easy way to improve this type of memory. It's simply to listen to a recording of the piece you're trying to memorize until you can sing it from beginning to end perfectly. Now, do I mean sing it perfectly like Jesse Norman would sing it operatically? No, of course not. A lot of violin pieces are impossible to sing. What I mean is to sing it in your mind's ear. Now, if you're doing a fiddle tune or something that's in your vocal range, then yes, sing it physically. Sing it in the shower, because I think that even solidifies the aural memory even more. But if it's like the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto or really fast notes or something, then just be able to sing it measure by measure without missing anything. And then you will have the aural memory memorized, so to speak. Doesn't mean you can play it yet, but it means that you have it memorized by ear. Okay? The second type of memory, the kinesthetic or the muscle memory. This one is handy, but I think it's the least reliable because I used to rely on this one a lot, and it would go fine and dandy until I got nervous. And then I'd start thinking too much about what I was doing, and then my thought process would completely throw my fingers off and I'd be in trouble. But this is a handy type of memory to have in place because it can bail us out when some of the other types of memory might fail. So what you want to do to develop your kinesthetic or your muscle memory is to just play a certain passage that you're working on. If it's a short piece, play the whole piece. But if it's a big long concerto, just pick the passage that you're working on and that you want to solidify your memory in and play it enough times that your fingers feel like they know where they're going, even if you're not concentrating on it. And a really good exercise that it drives me nuts to do this exercise, but it is useful, is after you think you've got it memorized and you think your muscle memory is starting to kick in, get a magazine article or a cereal box or, I don't know, the back of some junk mail or whatever. And while you're playing that passage, read the words on the page and read them and pay attention to what they mean. And then after you're done playing, ask yourself if you comprehended what you read in the magazine article, and did you also get through the passage successfully. If you are able to understand what you read and have some recall of what you read and get through the passage successfully, you've got your muscle memory pretty solid. I bet it won't go well for you the first few times you try this. It takes a lot of practice to be able to do that. But that's the surest way I know of to test and solidify your muscle memory without being in performance. Okay, the third type of memory, and I think this one is the most neglected. And I've discovered for me, it's the most powerful in solidifying my memory, regardless of whether I'm nervous or performing or not nervous at all. The third type of memory has been a godsend for me to learn about, and that is the intellectual form of memory. So how intellectual are we talking? Not really intellectual, it's just the name I gave to this type of memory. What you want to know is you want to know some specific things about what you're playing, not just how it sounds in your head, and not just what your fingers feel like when you're playing it. Some specific things. For instance, what position are you in? Let's pretend we're talking about a specific passage of the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto. And if you're going from 5th position to 4th to 3rd, that's a pattern. You're going down position by position, stepwise. Make note of where that happens, how big the shift is, what position you're going from, and what position you're going to. Memorize what arpeggio you're playing in a certain passage. Is it a first inversion B minor arpeggio? Memorize your form and structure. This is probably the first and foremost of the intellectual memory. Knowing what the skeletal structure is allows you to have the big picture in your mind. You'll know when danger spots are coming up. I want to show you really quick the power of knowing the form of a piece and how it can make your memorization 10 times easier. I'm using as an example the Gavotte from Mignon, and we'll show it to you up on your screen here. Now this piece is an intimidating two pages long, and that can be intimidating to most people. And not only that, it's full of a bunch of black notes, which makes it seem harder, even though they're really just ornaments written out. All right, so the Gavotte from Mignon, it's 2 pages long, but really it's only got 4 pieces of music that make it up. It's got part A, part B, part C, and this little coda type deal, part D. That's the big skeletal form. You've got your A material, B material, C material, and D material, but you've got an A, and then you've got like an A2 or an A prime, however you want to label it, doesn't matter. A1 ends in a certain way, A2 ends just a little bit differently, but it's really the same material, they just have different endings. So the form of Gavotte from Mignon is A1, A2, B1, B2, A2. And then it moves to the C material, and you've got C1, C2, A1, A2 with a grand pause. So A2 kind of gets interrupted. But that's just a matter of remembering the grand pause at that point. That would be part of your intellectual memory, one of your memory pillars. And then you've got your cute little D part, which is just a coda. And there's only one D, and it only happens one time at the end. I'm not going to go through this whole piece with you because it would take too long, but if I were you, I'd download and print this tune and write those little subsections down in it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And I think that will help you to learn how to analyze the form of your own pieces. Bottom line is that memory is just like a muscle. And if you want that muscle to be strong and reliable and perform for you, you need to work it out. You need to give it some exercise and strengthen it and work on it. And I want to encourage you not to start exercising that muscle with a huge piece like the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto. I want to encourage you to start with something easy like Suzuki Book 1, or a fiddle tune, or a hymn, or just something that you can easily play, and try to memorize 10 of those easy tunes, then move to something intermediate. And you'll find that you've gained strength and skills by memorizing the easy stuff, and those will help you to memorize the harder stuff. All right, I hope that you will find these tips helpful, and I'll see you next time.